Hello, everyone. My name is Daniela, like he said. Some of you I know already from before, some I don't. So I'm a research scientist in Norway, and I have been working with Polish companies since 2013. So we do different types of projects and discussions and so on. So I come here almost 3 times a year, every year, in the last 5 or 6 years. But I still like to come. Every time I come back, I want to come again. And I'm very glad that people invited me to do this talk today. The talk today is about something that I have been quite passionate about in the last 2 years. It's something that we have started to implement. And I also would like to have more people implementing this. So then that's why I like to go and talk about it. More and more companies in Norway now are interested in this and would like to try in their software teams, and that's why I brought it here. I know that's not that technical, but I think it's an interesting topic as well. And then we can discuss afterwards. I don't want to talk all the time. Yeah, just to start with, like I said, I'm a research scientist. I also work in a company called FARA, where I'm the software security officer there, and where besides doing research with them, I also implement this concept. So then I have both hats in my head. So I'm a researcher 70% of my time, and 50% of my time I'm a security officer. But you can search online afterwards as well. I also work in this company called Sintef. Sintef is the largest independent non-commercial research organization in Scandinavia. So it's very important that we say that because we do research for non-profit. We do research for research, and all the research that we do, it's applied with the software companies in Norway. So if there is any research that we are doing that we cannot apply to the companies, we don't do, because then we don't get customers and we don't get who is going to pay for the research. So it's very important that whatever I say, sometimes I say names of companies or some products or things like that. It's not because we sell anything, we don't sell. It's just because we have seen that it works in the companies, and then that's it. But we don't have anything behind it that we want to sell. So this is based on a research project that we started in 2015. And then it's very important to say what was the context, because the context was that most companies in Norway, they had this software Agile, and they were doing Agile very well. We were known as some company that was really upfront on doing Agile and trying Agile practices and so on. But the companies started to be stressed about security, and they didn't know how to do it. So then they didn't know how to go to a book and say, like, okay, this is how we are going to implement security in Agile in our organization. And that was the main challenge that they had at that time. So then we started studying together with them, what could we work in a way that we could address security, in a way that the companies would be confident about their security in their product, but still not break the agility. So it was very important for us that we didn't break agility. And security in this case here, we are talking about software security, not network security. So we are talking about whatever developers and testers and everyone does before you put it to production. So we are not talking really about production time. We are not talking about network. We are not talking about IT infrastructure. So what happens is that then you have to change the way that people work. We had to change the way that developers thought and start to help them to think about security as well. But then we did one study, and we did some surveys in Norway about how much the developers were comfortable that they knew security enough to be able to code in a secure way. And then we found out that more than 50% of the developers said that they didn't have confidence that they were doing security in a good way. They even didn't know what to do, and they even didn't know what meant it. But then afterwards, we found out that actually some of them just didn't know that they were doing code in a secure way, but they were already doing good practices of coding that helped with the security of the code. But of course, you have to think about this. And then what happens is that if there is no one in the organization that sets up the direction, things doesn't work. So then what we found out is that there is another talk that I gave, we call ambidextrous security program. We had to do something that came from the top down, Someone in the organization would say, these are the things we are going to implement for security, and some of the things had to come bottom up. It had to come from the team, and then these two things had to be quite well organized, otherwise it doesn't work. So we found out that if you just impose people to do security, it's never going to happen. And that was our challenge. How do we do that? And that, for me, it is what so then these are told already. So that, for me, it's what I call an innovation. Because what is an innovation? It's anything that you do that is different from what you do already. Okay? So it doesn't need to be kind of like, oh, the biggest thing after toilet paper. But it has to be something new. It has to be something that you are going to introduce, and it's going to make people work different. And that's an innovation. So based on this, I started looking at the research of how do we drive innovation? How do we put innovation to work? And how do we do things in an innovative way? Then you need a champion. So one of the things that research works a lot is in this champion concept, that you have to have someone that is going to drive that innovation, otherwise it's not going to happen. And of course, there is a lot of theory behind about people that are more prone to innovation in the beginning when the innovation comes, when something new, like for example, Kubernetes. Then you can say okay, in the beginning, everyone wants, not everyone. Some companies wait a little bit. It was the same thing with Agile. Some companies waited 10 years to try Agile, right? It's the same thing with DevOps now. DevOps is something that people are talking for a long time. There are companies that yet didn't start that. But also, does it mean that every company has to go Agile? Not necessarily. Every company has to go DevOps? Not necessarily. So then that's something that also some companies are more pro to try something in the beginning, and some companies are not. And that's why we need someone that is going to try that. And the champion is this person that takes this innovation on board of the company, modify it, and fit it into a context. So that's what we do with Agile, right? And that's what we do with DevOps as well. So what you need to do is to find the flavor that helps to you. And the person that can find the flavor, this is what we are calling the champion. And that's what we needed for security. We needed to find the person inside of the team that knew how the team worked and how the things would work for them. But of course, they needed some leadership that would tell them this is the initiative and these are the things that we have to focus on security. And that's what I needed. So then that's why we got with this idea of the champions. And then we call security champions. Some companies call security engineers. Some people call other things. But my idea is that not only I can only say about security because that is what I worked and what I learned with the companies, but we are also thinking of, can we have more champions inside of the team? Can we have, for example, champions for UX? Maybe UX is something that's not working in your team, and then you could work with that concept as well. If you're going to use the same strategy, I don't know yet, that I cannot say. But for security, this is the way that is working. And of course, this is not an idea that came only from me. There are other researchers also that talks about this, or OASP talk about security champions. But this is what we found in our approach and trying with different organizations that worked. So how to breed innovation champions or security champions and so on. So these are the steps, and then I'll talk about all of them and how we did this. So the first thing that we decided and we thought that was important to do was to define the role. So in FARA, that is this company that I work, we defined the role as this. It's someone that seeks for knowledge on technical and on processes, assist with security technical activities, help the adoption of the security strategy of the product, help on the process of self-managing security in the team, and collaborate with others. So then, why did we decide to do this way? Because first, we didn't want the champion to be the only one responsible for security. If that would be the case, we would fail completely, because we needed each one of the developers to have security in mind. So that's why it's help on the process of self-managing. I told them, in 3 years, I'm leaving, So in 3 years, you should be able to think for yourselves on what direction you want to go to security, how much security you want to be, how much secure you want to be. Sometimes the teams change, like people goes and comes, and then I am not able to take a look and see, like, okay, the team is still good on knowing what they have to do for security. It's the team that knows. And this security champion is the one that take a look on this. And then they can talk to me and say, like, okay, we need more training because the guys are not really good on doing security. So that goes, for example, we decided that we wanted to do code review. So when they do code review, if you don't have a mindset for security, you only look at functionality and style. But if you have a team that has more and it's discussing different things of security, they are going to look at the code and say, okay, this works, but it's not secure. So we cannot commit. So those are the mindsets that we are trying to change. The other thing that the security champion also does is with the technical activities on security. For example, we do threat modeling. So threat modeling, have you heard of threat modeling? Okay, so the threat modeling is something that it's an activity that you do in your design to take a look if you are doing things in a secure way. And then what we do is that the first, second time, I do together with the security champions, and I'm facilitating the process, and afterwards, he's the one that is facilitating that process. When they have to do, I don't know, because the one that can tell is the team. If I say to them, you have to do now, I stop the agility, right? So the team is the only one that can tell, okay, now we have changed it so much, we have refactored it so much in our code that we have to do a threat modeling. And then they trigger that to us, For example, penetration testing. When should we have it? When should we do it? I cannot tell them. But they can tell that's like, okay, we are doing this part of the system that we are not really sure about it. Let's do a penetration testing. And then let's ask for that, But I cannot tell. But we decided, for example, that at least once a year, you should do threat modeling. That's what we asked them to do. And then if you need to do more, you are the ones that decide. But it's always like the team thinking of like security and how are we getting confidence that we are getting security on the product in the end. The other thing that we do is to recruit and select the potential champions. That was challenging, actually. In Faro, we only have 5 teams. And so in some of the teams, we just asked, and then they said, like, yeah, there is this guy that is really, really keen on security. He's always bugging us on the code reviews and so on. He should be the security champion. Then it was easy, But not always you have people that are born with this and, like, really have this enthusiastic about security or know security from before. So then you have to kind of think about this and also see how you're going to make them security champions. Maybe they're not going to be like the best ones ever, but it will work. So 2 approaches the company can take, and sometimes you can have to take both. One is emergent, and the one is appointed. So we have this company that's called Visma, and they have 200 teams. So then, of course, do you think that you had like 200 people that were interested in security to be the security champion? No. So what they did was that they asked the service owners to just appoint someone. And then in some places, it was easy to the service owner to appoint her, and some places it was not. So of course, like with the 200 teams, we have implemented this for 3 years now. It works well, fairly well, but in some teams, some security engineers still don't like it, but no one else in the team wants it. So then we found out that it's something that we need to work on, and we need to find some strategy there that is going to make it work. But in other ones, they just do everything. They even do much more than what the program asks, and then they do a lot of different things, innovative things for security, and the confidence of security is much bigger. But we found out that it's also a good way to not be so big on security, because these are all developers in the teams. And they spend like 4 to 8 hours per week in security for their role. you know? And then these other ones are what we call the security team, that then they are paid 100% for this. But this is a big company. Imagine that it's like 200 teams. If we were going to like pay security experts for each one of the teams, they would fail big. And also it would be just top-down, and you would not get anything from the bottom up of the teams. So we found out that this, even though it's not perfect, it was the perfect setup for this big company. One thing that we do also, and they do as well, is that sometimes when the team is big, they divide the security engineers to be like 2 or 3 or 4 people in the room. In FARA, what we are doing is that sometimes some projects, when we get new projects, we appoint one person to be the security engineer for the project. Because then that person will think about what we need to do for that specific project that is different from what we do already. That's another thing that we do. And then, of course, it doesn't help if you just say to them, you know, you are the security engineers, and then this is your role, and just go for it. Of course, we have to help. And then the way that one of the things that we found that it helps a lot is to build these communication channels. So what we do is that we build Slack channels that are just for the security engineers, for them to talk about different things, different myths that people sometimes come, share about incidents, share about what incidents that happens internally and externally, things that they know, and so on. We also created communities of practice where we, like, every month, we sit together and we talk about some topic that sometimes is in the company that we need to talk about, or sometimes it's something that's happening on the marketing and things like that. We talk about the different tools that we use for security, how to use them, how to set up them. Some people use it in a different way, so we share that as well inside of the team. We do different things like that. We also learned that in FARA, we are too small because we only have 7 teams. But in Visma, where they have Romania, Lithuania, and Oslo, they also created OWASP chapters. So then all the security engineers can meet and talk about security and share different experiences. Also, we really incentivize people to go to security conferences, so then they can learn with other people what other people are doing and so on. So different things that we have to do to make them talk about security. And what we learn is that the more we talk about security, the more awareness everyone has. When you go to a security conference, sometimes the security champions just identify that, okay, we don't know much about this, and we need to do across for everyone in the team about this. And then we talk about that. So those are things that we need to put in place as well. But of course, when you think about self-management, it's not something that a team is going to do. You have to have someone in the company that's going to do that a little bit top-down as well. So it has to be kind of like I said, the teams have to say, I want this, but also we have to say what we see that they need to have. And then these 3 ones I put together because I didn't know a name to give for them. But one of the things that we have to do is to coach for skills development, mentor for career development, and recognize achievements. Though the third one, actually, is the most difficult of them. Coaching for skill development is easy because, like, those things that we did before, we help a lot with that. But sometimes some people need also leadership skills. And that's something that we are not trained in computer science to have. So that's something that we always have to talk and to build different types of talks so then they understand, okay, I can be a leader for this. It doesn't mean that he's going to be the responsible for security, but he's going to be the one leading the direction of the team and can think a little bit more outside of the box. We also talk about facilitation, because they also need to be facilitators for these meetings of security. That doesn't mean that they're going to take the decisions for security and so on, but they have to also facilitate on those things. And mentor the career development, we also take a look on what are the things that people are learning more, like thinking not only because it's very easy to catch up with what you do on a daily basis in the team, and forget that, okay, I have things that I also have to learn. Of course, it happens that you mentor someone and this someone leaves. But that is a risk that we have to take. And then recognizing the effort, it's something that actually it is one of the problems we have with security, and maybe people also have that with UX and so on. That is, after 3 years, I cannot say that we are much better than 3 years ago. You know, maybe now we have more incidents, but not because our software is worse. It's because we have more attacks, right? So then we still have these problems of, okay, we are working and you are working with all this. Is it paying off or not paying off? We get pressure both from top down, from the managers and so on, and also from the developers saying like, we are spending so much more time in doing this analysis for security, learning this and that. Are we better or not better? So that is still something that we have problems with. But of course, some companies can get some strategies. For example, we did a penetration testing in one of the products that we were very good on focusing on security on that product. And then we almost didn't find any bugs. So it was an external company that came and did the penetration testing, and they found like 3 issues. 2 of them were not even in our backend. It was in our third-party backend. So it was really good and gave confidence to everyone that we are doing good things. So that was kind of a reward. In Visma, they implemented the bug bounty program. Have you heard of bug bounty program? Okay. Yeah. So then the bug bounty program, so then they also said, okay, you are only going for the bug bounty if you are already addressing everything that we ask you to address and you are working well with the security. And then it happens that some team says, I want to go to bug bounty no matter what. And then one of them, for example, went, and then they got 30 bugs in the same week. And then it was expensive. Then they said, like, okay, now we know we are not ready. So those things are also good, because then the ones that saw that they followed the program, they followed all the things about security and went to the bug bounty was smooth going to the bug bounty. So going to the bug bounty is also a way to give a reward to the team saying, you are doing good. And all the people, all the hackers are trying your system, and you are fine. And the last one, and it's empower the champions. I don't know if you can see, but so this for me, it's more challenging than the last part, actually, because it's about, I still don't know how to do this, to be honest. It's something that I still feel, if I don't say to the teams, you know, I want you to do static analysis tools, then I get to the point that I tell them, I would like you to have static analysis tools in your pipeline. Then they are fine with that, and they find a way to make that work in their team. But then if I don't say, or if I say, if they have to come up with an idea of what they have to do, they still don't come up with that idea. So that is my challenge now, that I'm trying to ask them to also come with ideas of what they can do. And the reason that I think that they don't do it is because I don't empower them enough. And that's my challenge now. Like, I'm trying to think of, like, how do I delegate authority to them that they think, security here, I'm the one that's going to think, not Daniela, you know? And one of the ways that I did that was to say to them, I'm leaving in 3 months. No, in 1 year. Because there are people here from the company. So I said, like, I only have a 3 years contract, and in 3 years, I'm leaving. So you have to get this authority for you. You know, but still, I don't think that all of them are that. The one that we also, it's quite challenging, is the fostering of trial and error mindset. So with some teams, I tell them, the third-party vulnerability analysis, it's something that is hard to do, but try. At least try, run once in your code, see what it comes. But the product owner will never fix. And then I say, it's okay if they don't fix. At least we know what are the problems we have. And then we can discuss afterwards. But do not just say, I'm not going to try because you are afraid of what's going to happen. You know? So, but in some teams, this mindset of like, we can try this approach and then try and then fail on it, it's very hard to get. But the ones that tries, then see that's like, okay, we can try more things. It's the same thing with the static analysis tools, and then the same thing with threat modeling, penetration testing, and so on. So we have to try and see what happens. Flexibility regarding teams' decisions, I said that already. So we give a lot of flexibility on how they are going to do things. Sometimes we just say, this is what we would like you to do, but then they say how they are going to do. And then I think it's very important this as well. And we found out that they have to be passionate, and that's the polarization of the source of ideas is what I'm trying now with what I'm saying, because I'm the only one that is giving ideas of what to do with security and how to improve security, but I would like them to also give these types of ideas. And my belief is that they can only get this type of ideas if they go to different trainings or if they are exposed to different experiences from other companies and things like that. So we are trying that approach now to see if more ideas come. And of course, we have to allocate financial resources for these new ideas. That means that we have to pay for different things. We have also to, like for example, in this team that wanted to go to the bug bounty, it was a financial choice anyways. So then they had to pay for the bugs anyways afterwards. So we need to be aware that like it will cost. It will cost maybe to try a new tool. It will cost maybe to try a new technique. And that's something that we need to be aware, and we need to kind of separate time for that. Yeah, so then so what we learned about the effective champions, and then when I say like it's working good or not working good in some companies, it's because we see this. For example, the ones that you see that are driven by results, that they have involvement of key stakeholders, that is not only, okay, I'm the one that's security champion here and that's it. No, if it involves also the developers, it involves the product owners, it involves the project managers, then it's someone that is working to get security in, you know. And then also gather resources for the implementation of the innovation. So the ones that just say to me, no one needs training, no one needs anything, I'm like, okay, something is kind of wrong here. Or it's not asking for new tools, it's not asking for anything, it's because they are not really there trying to get things going. And all this thing about self-management comes also from another theory. So this is what we are trying to achieve. So what happens is that the theory says that when the team is only executing the tasks, he's not very self-managed. And when he is setting the directions, he's fully self-managed. For security, the way that we have seen with the companies is that we want them to be somewhere here. Maybe it's not effective sometimes to be all the way here. And then like, if you're going to implement the champions in somewhere, you have to decide where do you want to be. You know, the only thing that we know is that I don't want them to be here, and I want them to be somewhere here. And that is what I'm working for. But if you decide that you want to get them here, you have to be aware, like I said, that I'll be gone in 3 years. So that's of course what you need to decide. And that is the strategy that you need to set. And all those things comes with this in the mindset. And this is what I'm thinking. So then that's it. So then these are the things that we are doing to create these champions in our organizations. And you can try with the other ones as well. There are other ones also that are advocating for this. Of course, OWASP has been advocating for this for a long time. We don't use the same approach as them because we did research and then we adapted that quite well. And there are other companies now also that are proposing this in their own way to breed the security champions. And you can take a look. But it's just one idea that I would like you to take a look. And that's it. Questions?
So how do you measure like, the maturity of the organization?
How do you?
How do you measure maturity of the organization?
The organization, the whole organization?
You apply it, right?
Yeah. Maturity in terms of security. So there are, like I said, there are different ways to do that. What is very hard, but there are some. Have you heard of BSIM? Yeah, so for software security, there are some different maturity levels, models, that there is one from OWASP called SAM 2.0, and there is one from BSIM that is called BSIM. These two helps a lot to give you already some activities that most of the companies do, and some activities that like some are doing, some are not, and then you can decide about that. That is one way. It's not that like says that you are very good or very bad, but it's a very good indicator already. So when we go to the organizations and we ask them to fill up these questionnaires, it gives them a very good indicator of we are doing good or we are not doing very good, and we trace from there a way to go. You know, another thing that we are using also, we are using the Microsoft lifecycle, security lifecycle. That one also gives a lot of different activities that you could do and so on. So it gives you also a sense of like, okay, we are doing or not doing the activities that we should do. Yeah, yeah, once a year. Yeah.
Hi. So regarding champions that could spread awareness about the security, I would like to ask you this question in this context. That sorry, after the presentation, so my throat is sore. So taking care about security often requires a very solid educational background from every person, and just being aware of security is often not enough, isn't it?
No.
So I recently heard one person told the thing that I am not a good programmer, but I'm just a bad programmer with good habits. So isn't it more beneficial for the company to not spread awareness about the security to the engineers, but spread good habits to their work, so they care about security without even knowing about it?
That would be our ultimate goal. Because our goal is to have security as like, this is just the way we do things, you know, and not be a separate thing or a different thing that you do. So if you spread as like good habits, then that is what we want. So that's why we focus a lot on good security practice for coding and then other things like that, you know. So they have to learn that this is the way to do. Like, for example, if you're going to use a new library, it's not only to use a new library, but to use a new library in a secure way. You know? Or like when you start putting the code review and them to think about these things in the code review, it starts to be internalized as well. So those are the things that we use. You know? Static analysis tools, for example, helps a lot because the most common bad habits you catch there. You know? So yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Thanks for the presentation. Just one question. As you know, with the companies, especially the development team, suffers from the technical debt. And you are putting on the top also the security findings. So therefore, I have two questions. One is like, how do you make the prioritization of the findings that they should be fixed? Because like, you know, functionality is first, technical debt is always a problem. And the second, again, how far security champion responsibility goes.
Yeah.
Is it like just about the finding, or it's also like, you know, going further till the finding is closed?
Yeah, so then this is like our classical issue right now. It's prioritization. So one of the things that we started doing is that we created something called like a risk project. And then in this risk project, we put everything that we have found in security. So then what we do is that from this, we try to make it more concrete. So then we can discuss with the product owner to see if we are going to prioritize that instead of a functionality or something like that. So it's always a discussion. We have always to discuss with the product owners and with but then I trust a lot the technical view that the security champion gives to me to kind of pressure or not the product owner to invest on that functionality right now, you know, or invest in security right now or not. But we have a lot of problems, especially with legacy code, that when we started doing the analysis on the legacy code, it was hard to ask the product owner, now you have to go to this legacy from 10 years ago and fix it, right? But then when we created the risk, we said, like, at least we can accept this risk, and we know what's the consequences of this risk, and we are going to change or not. In some few cases, we went back and fixed it, but in some not. But it's always a challenge of that. About how far the security engineer goes, I try to make this as like a part of a team decisions, but also we did very clear definition of what is the responsibility, what can the security champion decide, and what is the product owner that's going to decide, or what's going to be the organization that's going to decide. You know, so we had this escalation of priorities and risks that we have, so then we can act on them. But what we found out in FARA was that creating the risk project helped a lot to do the prioritization of things. But it is concurrency with the technical debt as well. You know, so for now I'm making it as a special thing, but in a very perfect life, I would like it to have us together with the technical debt and then work everything together. And if we know how to judge what is important to do this now or not, you know. But we are putting this as an extra thing. Yeah. Yeah.
I waited patiently. So how do you deal with the survival's fault when evaluating champions? I'd like to expand that with this sort of comment that when no one or just a small amount of person cares about security in the company, you have a small amount of security reports, small amount of security-related activities, and small amount of security issues. When you hire a person that starts spreading this awareness or starts implementing or injecting good habits regarding security to the team, then the number of security issues is going to rise inevitably. And from the business perspective, that looks like this person causes us the increased amount of security issues. So the classical survival fault, how do you deal with that?
So that's why we created the security champions, because we didn't want to hire outsiders to come to the teams and say like, okay, now you're doing everything wrong. But we are trying to do everything from the bottom up. So we try to work with the teams and with the issues that the teams have, not with someone from the outside coming and saying something. When we started with the risks, we had a lot of risks, but then afterwards, now we get less and less, and we have better granularity of the risks that then we can act on them. So we didn't really have that effect, really. And we have been running this for 3 years with these two companies. We didn't really see that effect when we started with the bottom up, you know. But it may be that you're right. Yeah. Is the time over? Okay. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.